Have you ever looked at life from the outside and thought, this should feel right, but it doesn't. You're in the job, you're hitting your numbers, everything's going well, everyone thinks you've got it all together, but deep down, something's off. And you've been ignoring it for a long time. Well, today's guest ignored it for years until one drive home from a work appointment cracked that wide open, and he had to make a choice: either lie his way to the top or walk away from everything he built. Tim Street is a Marine, a former Federal Air Marshal, and the founder of Foolproof FSBO. And in this episode, he is going to show us exactly how to recognize the moment your life stops fitting, and then what it actually takes to change it. Stay with me. You're going to need this one.
You know, there's congruence is something I like to think about. Am I living congruently with what I've decided or I've been led to understand as a good life? And so many times where I thought I was enjoying things, because you can enjoy yourself and not live in keeping with who you're meant to be. That's for sure.
Everyone has a soft drawer where we hide the stuff we don't want to face. Today, we're opening yours. I'm Lisa Begley, and this is the Sock Drawer Podcast. If your life feels messy, stuck, or outgrown, good. That's where we begin. Hey, welcome to the Sock Drawer Podcast, where we talk about the moments in life when something no longer fits and what it looks like to have the courage to actually change it. And today's guest, Tim Street, he's a Marine veteran, former Federal Air Marshal, entrepreneur, and the founder of Foolproof FSBO. But more importantly, Tim is someone who's lived through some very real kind of shifts, the kind where from the outside, things looked solid, good, all good. But internally, something just isn't aligned. And instead of ignoring that, he did something about it. And we're going to learn more about that today. Tim, I'm so glad you're here. I'm really glad to have you. Tell us more.
Well, Lisa, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me. It's so nice that you and your audience are going to put up with me here for a little bit. And it's just a pleasure. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. It's exactly right. I mean, I started off life and I grew up in Metro Detroit and I didn't expect to ever really leave or amount to anything. I had lost at everything I'd ever tried. I mean, I just kind of followed everybody and I did not have any kind of a life that I would say espoused any sort of leadership. I was more of a follower. If it was cool or trendy or fun or stupid, or, and that I would do it, so that led to all the bad habits you could imagine and all the terrible decisions I made as a young guy. And by, God's grace, I somehow found my way out of it. But yeah, and I still find myself to this day looking back, I sit here, I judge myself in my youth. I judged myself from 2 weeks ago. Like, man, what was I thinking? I'm an idiot. I guess I'm a rat growth.
Yeah, listen, we've all been there. And I love that you look yourself in the mirror and ask that question, because at least you're willing to face some of the decisions made or whatever. But when you look back on your life, like even a few years ago, what were some of the things that felt off? Like even when everything looked like it could have been great, or it felt, even felt good to you. What were some of the things that kind of made you stop and think?
There's congruence is something I like to think about. Am I living congruently with what I've decided or I've been led to understand as a good life? And so many times where I thought I was enjoying things, because you can enjoy yourself and not live in keeping with who you're meant to be. That's for sure. And I think that's where you find like the short-term pleasures on earth and the very, like, I guess the things that don't mean much in the long term. When you talk about legacy, when you actually think, hey, this blink of an eye that I'm here on this planet, and a very subset of that 80 years, let's say, I'm enjoying myself, but are you doing something that matters? And so I knew for a very long time, that I wasn't necessarily living a life that truly mattered in a way that I would hope it would. And it took me a while to figure out that I was capable of actually living a life that mattered. And I was taught that lesson early on as a Marine, when I lost friends of mine, and they were such young men, and they were 201. They were all better than me. And I just remember thinking, like, how's this possible? How's this fair? How's this decent? How's this right? What business do I have living, breathing, carrying on when those guys are no longer here. And I think that kind of established in me a belief that, listen, it's not good enough for you just to come here and enjoy yourself and have a good time. You have to do things that matters, because there's people who don't have that opportunity. There's people who have, whether they've passed away, whether they have a physical disability, whether they were born in Sri Lanka and are never going to see the other side of a meal. Like, I mean, people wondering if they're going to eat. We've won life's lottery by being here. So it's important to me anyway, that I recognize those gifts.
I love that you say we won life's lottery. And
Truly.
from the outside, looking at your background, right? People respect the type of background that you come from: military, Federal Air Marshal, business success. What did people, looking back at others, I know you kind of told us about you, but what did people assume about your life?
Well, that's part of the problem, I think, is early on in my life, I really valued what other people, I cared a lot about the image I was giving to other people. Right.
Yeah.
I really, and I think that's always true to an extent, but I've been able to attenuate that quite a bit as I got older. So early in life, it really mattered to me that people thought, wow, that guy drives a nice car. Wow, that guy's got a nice watch, things like that. And so people on the outside, I'm sure, probably assumed that I was some lucky guy, some trust fund kid, something like that, which nothing was further from the truth. Well, yes, I was very lucky. I was very blessed. I had just happened to grow up and find myself in a circle of friends who went on to bigger and better things outside of Detroit. And they happened to believe in me. And thank God they did, because they brought me along and taught me things that I would have never learned. Sure. But, so from the outside looking in, I think people probably thought that, hey, this guy is just one of those lucky fools. And perhaps I am. But at the same time, I'm also very grateful, and I'm also very well aware that these gifts that I've been given are, they're God-given. They can't come from my efforts. They can't come from the efforts of my friends. Even it's got to come from another place, and that's kind of how I show gratitude for that.
Yeah, so good. When you look back, do you remember at the time? I remember you said you looked in the mirror and you kind of judged yourself, but did you know something was off kind of at the time, or did that awareness come later? Like you needed to pivot, do something different? Were you aware of that?
Yeah, I've had that happen to me a few different times, Lisa. Like, when I was leaving the Marines, I just knew it was time for me to go. When I got into the Marine Corps, I learned, and that's probably the worst place you could ever learn this, was that I had a problem with authority. I didn't realize that until I got in the Marine Corps, and I was like, wow, that's a dumb thing for me to do. And actually, I should qualify that. I actually,
how do you mean?
My real problem is with unearned authority or unmerited authority. So just because you've been here longer than me, if you're not better, stronger, smarter, I don't necessarily feel like I should listen to you. And of course, you can't run a military that way. And so that's why I just knew, after 5 years, I was like, I couldn't flourish there. I was not going to be happy there. And it was one of the greatest things I ever did. It set me on a path that I will be grateful for the rest of my life. But I knew like I had to move on. So yeah, there were times I'd look at the map like this just isn't right. There's no way that this clown's in charge of me. I can't do this. Same as, in talk about clowns. Why don't we talk about the federal government? Holy smokes. Being a Federal Air Marshal was cool at first. It felt like real James Bond. It felt like really high speed. Yeah, it was great. October of 2001, I was in Chicago interviewing for a spot at the Academy. I mean, I was right there. But, as with all things with the federal government, red tape takes over, bureaucracy takes over. People who are just, armchair heroes for their entire life end up being in charge of you. And I just knew it was the wrong spot. And that has never really changed. There's always been those pivotal moments. And I think the one that you're referring to is in the real estate industry. I just saw one too many times where either unethical buyers and sellers or unethical agents or a combination of both were leading to a real estate environment where truth was a very rare thing. And I kind of just had enough because I was on the verge of becoming that. Like I started thinking, it's like, well, look, if I can't beat them, I might as well join them. Yeah. And then when I realized what I was actually saying and the path I was about to walk down, it made me just physically ill. And I just washed my hands of it all. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah.
So the path was military, air marshal, and then coming out of that, the real estate market, right? Now, in between all of this, more personally, you were going through a divorce. That was back do I have the timing right? So how much of that did it I guess how much of that forced you to kind of really stop and look at yourself? Was that part of the transformation into entrepreneurship, or did they not really align?
So after the Federal Air Marshals, that's where I fell back into contact with some of the friends of mine from school. And they built tech companies, and I actually started up sales for them. They were like, listen,
Cool.
we can't pay you anything. I was like, I don't care. I was so desperate to get out of the federal government. I was like, I don't care. You
I'll
pay
start
100%
anyway.
commission. Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank God they did, because it was literally sink or swim, and I crushed it. And we all were very
Very
thrilled to
cool.
work together. And we're still great friends to this
Yeah.
day. So it was after that, living out of a suitcase, for 15 years, where it was difficult to raise kids. And yeah, I was a horrible husband. I was terrible. And like to this day, I've been remarried, and I've married the best person who I am convinced has ever lived and walked this planet. And she's amazing, but I still know I'm a terrible husband. I have so much more to grow. I'm awful. But with that said,
We all
my initial marriage, yeah, I mean, I forget who told me, but it was kind of a funny thing. The guy asked me, he says, do you know why divorce is so expensive? I said, no. He goes, because it's worth it. I said, wow, sometimes I guess you're right. And in this case, yes,
Yeah.
I mean, it was absolutely right. I think that initial marriage was kind of poisonous to me, and kind of how my former life was, where I was anchoring what really mattered to me around the wrong things. They weren't anchored in a foundation.
Yeah. Didn't you call it coasting at some point? Coasting, right?
Yes,
Or,
I was on cruise control every day,
yeah.
Groundhog Day. And so when I finally got into real estate, it was, after the divorce, I wanted to become a real estate investor. I knew that I couldn't live out of a suitcase anymore. I was now raising two little girls, they're now, one's in college, but to me, they'll always be my little girls,
Of course.
and now we have
Yeah.
4. Liz has her 2, and I had my 2. So now we're a family of 6, and life
Very
is
cool.
beautiful. But yeah, that's how I got into real estate.
Okay. So what drove you to real estate? So you're selling, I mean, obviously real estate is selling, right? So you're selling for your friends in the tech industry, and then you pivot to real estate. How did that transformation happen?
Well, so we had taken a buyout of the last company that we had all built together. And so I was in this kind of transition phase where I'm like, well, what do I do now? And like I was saying before, I could have gotten back into the tech space, but I knew what that was going to mean. It was going to mean I was gone for 4 or 5 days at a time. And I had, my little girls every other week for a full week. So I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So then I had to figure out, well, what is there that I could take my skill set and pursue? So real estate investing came into mind. And for anybody out there who's a real estate investor, they're going to laugh their butt off at me when I tell them I got into real estate investing because I thought it would be passive. And there was just absolutely nothing passive. I've never had more sleepless nights and worry than owning properties. But at that time, that was the silly, uninformed opinion I had. And in the process of becoming an investor, I got very frustrated working with real estate agents because the majority of them that I came across, and maybe I just had bad luck, were just not as up to speed on negotiation tactics as I was. They weren't as up to speed on due diligence as I was. But, when I pursued a deal, we're closing 7-figure deals, and I have to know everything there is about this. So I took that level of sincerity and preparation into the real estate world, and I found everybody there was just not taking up that serious. So I like to joke around and say, I disliked working with real estate agents so much that I decided to become one, and it worked out great.
Didn't you say that earlier in our conversation about something else? Right?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I'm a very simple man.
It's the best way to conquer, right? Just conquer it. Just make it better. I'm going to fix this, right? I'm going to be better at what they're doing, No, I love that. I love that whole analogy, right? I don't like it so much. I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
We're going around it. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And it's funny too, because one of the things that I learned was I had a really low opinion of real estate agents when I got into this. And ever since becoming one and working with them, it's gone nothing but go up. Here's what I tell people. The worst people I've ever met in my life happen to be real estate agents. And some of the best people I've ever met in my life are also real estate agents. So you can't paint with a broad brush. And the real estate industry gets a lot of flack. And a lot of that opinion is deserved. We do as a real estate agent, I've been in the position where I could have, if I chose to, do some extremely unethical things, and it would have accrued to my benefit. Thankfully, I chose not to. But
But
who
long term,
says,
maybe not, right?
right? Amen.
Yes.
Yeah. Because how
Yeah.
many times can somebody resist that level of temptation? I
Yeah.
don't know. I know I'm fallible. Trust me, I've seen me do it. I've
Right
fallen and
here.
I failed so many times. So yeah, I just knew the best thing in the world is, instead of thinking I'm strong enough to avoid it, just separate myself and don't put myself in that position.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, Tim, I have to ask you, do you think most people ignore that, like, these moments that you've had where you knew you needed to pivot? Do you think people mostly ignore that and way longer than they should? Or do you think people recognize it? And if, like, I always wonder about that. Like, what is it that's holding you back? Are you ignoring it, or you just don't know what to do with it? Or because you have a very, like, it's good. I see this, I'm going to go after it. I see this, I'm going to go after it. And not everybody has that. So I feel like people ignore that tug.
I feel like it's astute that you saw that, because there's this false assumption that security is permanent. So I was at a very, very secure, I could have been a Marine for the rest of my life. I could have been in the federal government for the rest of my life.
Sure.
If I had stayed in the federal government, I probably would have been dead at 30 years old from a heart attack and overeating and not living a clean life and making bad decisions. Like, there's nothing secure about that. I have, from a very early age, and I don't know why it came to me, but from a very early age, I understood that there was very little, it was very rare that security would align with success. And so, and to me, the most secure feeling I have is knowing that I'm going to wake up happy. I'm going to live a whole life, and I'm going to be able to afford to put tires on the vehicle if I have to. And there were many times in my life where it looks like, if you look out far enough, it looks like my trajectory has been all up and to the right. It hasn't. I mean, there were times right before the divorce, where I'm literally the only person rowing the canoe, and we're 2 house payments away from losing the house if something doesn't happen. But there's times where I'm putting used tires on the truck because I can't afford new tires. Mm-hmm. There's times where my dad worked at Disney Cruise Lines. He gives free Disney tickets, but so I take my little girls there, and we have to literally bring our own food because I can't afford to pay for the food at Disney. Like, I mean, these humbling experiences that just ripped my heart out when I look back at them. And I which is why I treasure so greatly the grace and the blessings that I've been given now. It's amazing. But so I don't want people to misunderstand that there's nothing easy or safe about taking that path, but it's all worth it. I believe it's worth it. I believe that what's the old song, that God bless the broken road that led me here to you. There's a reason that road is curved and broken.
Yes.
It's because now I can appreciate it. Had it been given to me, I don't know that I would.
I couldn't agree more. I think, and I love that you said the trajectory. If you take a step back and you look at the overall picture, it's kind of like investments, right? Like they say, leave it alone, just let it do its thing, but it's going to do this and it's going to do that. And there's going to be peaks and valleys, and there's going to be hard things that you have to walk through. Life is the same, I think, for almost anybody, but I think the key, in my humble opinion, is how you recover from it, is what you do with what's happening in the peak and the valley, right? And how you respond to it. You've done, it seems, just phenomenal with the mindset of being, and not everybody is able to do that, but the mindset of being able to take a look at it and move on from it in a positive way, right? You met Liz, right?
Yes.
In 2021. Yes. And something shifted and I have to ask you, like, what met her and things started so much better to get so much better? What was the hardest habit at the time, or the mindset, speaking of mindset, that you had to break in order to walk that path?
Well, Liz is, like I said, she's her own just amazing story. And one of the things that I admire so much about her is she, in a period of like 4 years growing up, she lost her mom, her dad, and her brother. So when I've seen tragedy hit people, and sometimes sadly it turns them bitter and afraid, and they don't want to open up again, and I've never ever met anybody more full of life and joy and the capability of loving and forgiveness than Liz. I mean, and that's, so to me, that just immediately, that jumped out at me when I learned. I of course just respected and admired her to begin with.
Yeah.
But when I learned about her story and I realized, how can you still be this way after all of that? It really was just, I knew I was dealing with somebody special. So I knew I don't deserve her by any stretch. Do I deserve her? So therefore I'm always trying to be better. And also for my daughters, I want to be a better dad, and I fail at being a dad every day. I want to be a better husband. I fail at being a husband every day. And I think if most people understood what that meant, does it mean I'm going out and getting destroyed at a bar and looking at women? No, it doesn't mean failure in that way. But could I have maybe held the door for a bit longer? Could I have took out the trash before being asked? Could I have told her how pretty she looked today? And maybe I was too busy. Those are failures. And it's like, it's important that people, I was given this lesson, like I was saying early on, like when I lost my Marines, I knew that one day I was going to see them again. And I wanted them to look at me and say, good job. I don't want them to say, wow, Tim, this is what we sacrificed your life for, so you could sit around eating Cheetos on the couch. That's not the, and so maybe, I mean, to regress for just a second, that might be why I attack things so, rapidly, is because I know that I'm going to have to answer for my life one day. Mm-hmm. And, carrying that forward into where I am with Liz, I found myself I quit drinking. I mean, I don't know if I was an alcoholic or not, but I mean, as the Marines do, we like to drink and party and all that stuff, and that never left me. So, I mean, I haven't drank in over 3 years now.
Wow.
I just, after trying to quit so many times, I couldn't imagine. And like, so there's changes that have been worked in my life, continually. And I think that with the right people that you bring in your life, they're going to either, tamp down on those changes or bless and want to see those changes multiply. So,
yeah, that lands with the right people that you bring in your life. And I think a lot of us, can definitely make errors in those decisions, but hey, live and learn, and everything that you've done up to now. So today has really, it seems like it's been a journey, but it's everything you've done after each thing. You brought something to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And today you're building businesses that help people. And so tell us a little bit about Foolproof FSBO. Like, how did that all get started?
So at about the time where I call it my driveway moment. I was at a listing appointment where I knew I wasn't going to win the listing because the agent who came and saw these people before me said he was going to get them probably another $100,000 for their house because he had something like 25,000 Instagram followers. Those of us in the business understand that as something called buying the listing. It's where you tell a homeowner something that's preposterous, but it sounds so good to their ears that they have no choice but to list with you. Now, meanwhile, all you're doing is you're planting your billboard in their front yard. You're collecting all kinds of free sign leads off of it. And their house is going to sit and get a stigma as the house that has something wrong with it because it's not selling. Why? Because it's overpriced. And so this happens a lot. And that was leaving that appointment. I knew what happened. My heart broke for this older couple who believed this guy. But what am I going to say? It's going to look like sour grapes if I try to tell them the truth. So I was in a really weird position. And that's where I drove home. And I was like, you know what? If that's what it takes to get to the next level in this business is lie, I can do that. I've lied before. I'll lie again. I'm a hypocrite. I can do this. I'm very good at lying. And so why can't I do this? And that's when I kind of felt that tinge, my soul, almost, where I was like, are you serious? Do you realize what you're about to do? You realize the pain you're going to inflict on good people. But more than that, do you realize how you're spitting in the face of all those people who sacrificed to get you where you are today? Not just your guys, not your Marines, but your parents, their parents, like all of the teachers, all the people who actually took me under their wing. You're spitting in their face. Is your wife going to respect you? Are your kids going to look at you with respect when they realize what you are? Right. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but I mean, those are the very deep questions that I think more people need to ask themselves before they take the wrong turn in life, because that's the only thing that stopped me. And I got to thinking, and it wrecked me for a series of days. I just didn't know what to do. I knew I couldn't do this business anymore. I didn't like it. And again, it's not just the real estate agents. I had sellers who tried to cover up just terrible material defects in their homes. Yeah. I had buyers come across knowledge that they shouldn't have come across about a seller finding themselves pregnant and having to do a job transfer. And they use that information against this poor mom to negotiate their price down and beat her over the head with it. So it's not just real estate agents who are to blame. I always say real estate agents are incentivized to act in the way that their customers tell them to. So if customers expect it, we're behaving with nothing but the most high morals, then real estate agents would probably mirror that. And so I got to it and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I started to realize, I was like, all of these things that this system that I used to sell homes, and we were very successful at it, was just a process. And I thought, what if I taught that process? What if I took everything I know that I've been able to sell millions of dollars in real estate, and what if I just package that up and I give it away? And I let moms and dads and young parents maybe build a college fund, or my people my parents' age retire earlier, or whatever it is. Yeah. And what could they do with another $30,000 in their pocket at the end of a home sale? And so that's how I built this. I built Foolproof FSBO, and now I give it away.
Okay, so 2 questions. First of all, for our listeners, you and I, because I've been a real estate agent, FSBO is an easy thing to say. Can you tell us what it means? Let's kind of lay it out for the listener listening to, if they don't know what a FSBO is, what is that?
FSBO is FSBO. It's an acronym. It stands for for sale by owner. And basically all it is, it's the process of a homeowner selling the home on their own without the help of a listing agent, and sometimes without the help of a buyer's agent.
Okay. And now, so who is Foolproof FSBO for? Who's it for, and what problem are you solving?
So my customers are typically, they fall into one of 3 camps.
Okay.
One, it's usually a young working couple who are maybe on their starter home and they're looking to get into something else and maybe upsize because of a growing family. It's usually a retired couple who have a lot of time on their hands and they enjoy DIY projects. And the third bucket tends to be real estate investors and flippers who do 5, 6, 7 real estate transactions in a year. And every time they do it, they're looking at this giant line item saying, well, what the heck? Where's that money going? And investors tend to find this very attractive because as a homeowner, if we save another $30,000, that's great. That accrues into our next project. But for a real estate investor, we use leverage. So every dollar I save or every dollar I could generate extra on a sale, I can apply that about 10 times. So that's actually $10 that goes to the next project because I'm able to leverage. Okay. Those are the 3 primary groups that find interest in this.
Okay. So while you're doing this, based on, you just mentioned, like, the industry, it's kind of like car salesman, right? And as you were talking, I have to say this really quick. As you were talking, I was thinking, you can find this probably in almost every industry, a little bit, maybe in a different way, but you find these folks, who are running business, working through a business, doing some of the things that you mentioned. So you can find it anywhere. But while you're going through this, what keeps you grounded now so you don't slip back into old patterns or even lean into the direction of, like, I could do that. I could lie about that. What keeps you grounded now? What's your foundation?
Well, I'm a huge believer in I'm a Christian. I go to church.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I read my Bible a lot. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
And it matters too. And I mean, ultimately that, whether I knew it or not, because when I grew up, Metro Detroit, they don't teach a lot about religion. So I grew up rather antagonistic to God.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, he basically kicked down the door several occasions in my life and says, hey, I'm here. I'm real. You need to pay attention to me. I've got a thick head. And so it takes a lot to get through to me sometimes, but I'm here and I have this ability to choose the right thing simply because I've been blessed with the ability to choose. Look, I'll be the first person to tell you, if my kids' lives were on the line, I would lie to anybody about anything in order to save them. Yeah. So I don't want people to sit here and think that I'm this holier than thou guy, because guess I'm as capable of evil and making the wrong choice as everybody else is out there. And there's only one reason I haven't. It's because I've been lucky. I've been blessed. And that's it. There's no difference. I'm on the inside, just as deep and dark. And I'm the worst person out there. And I firmly believe that. It's just because I've been given enough blessings that I can afford to wonder, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this job because it's attacking my soul. But guess what if I couldn't afford it? If I'm going to choose between my soul and feeding my children, guess what I'm picking? I'm feeding my children. And I think only the love of a father and a mother and a parent, I think you don't understand that level of love until you've experienced it, where you would just sacrifice anything and everything about yourself, if only for them to take another breath for another day. And that's so I'm in a position of gratitude and recognizing my blessings that I'm even capable of having this conversation. How lucky are we that we can actually have a choice when there's people in this world who have to do terrible things just to survive. They have to do unmentionable things. They have to see unmentionable horrors on a daily basis just to be able to bring food home to their family. And so I think that's what keeps me grounded, is to recognize constantly how just the odds of me being where I am is just, it's astronomical.
Wow, gosh, Tim, thank you for sharing all of that. That's so huge. And it sounds like I feel like you just really didn't just change direction. You actually changed your standards and your beliefs and your focus. And that's huge. And I agree. I think there's so many people out there that don't have the option, or at least don't feel like they have the option or the ability, to do those things. So, okay, I want to just get a little bit more into Foolproof FSBO, because what does a day-to-day look like? So you get a client, what are you helping them do? Are you helping them learn how to sell their property on their own? Are you teaching them to do that? Basically, I kind of want to simplify it a little bit, especially for listeners, because there's a lot of people out there who think about that, right? They're thinking about selling their house. They're like, boy, that 6% could really, is it still 6? I don't know. It's probably 8 right now. But you know what I'm saying? That 6%, I could really use that in the pocket. I don't have a lot of equity. Boy, if I only knew how to do all that, but I'm scared because there's so much to it. Tell us a little bit about that part of it.
Yeah, Lisa, you nailed it. There's a ton to it. And so I always, first thing I do is I practice courageous, brutal honesty with everybody I work with, because I would so much rather disappoint someone with the truth and comfort them with a lie. So one of the first things that we go through when we work together is say, are you even a fit, or is this a disaster? Here's something, and a lot of real estate agents, when they hear me teaching people how to sell their home, they become hostile. I should take this back. The bad real estate agents become hostile because they have a scarcity mindset that if this guy's teaching these people how to sell, then that necessarily means less money for me. The good agents are more like Michelin star chefs, where they're like, I don't care if you cook at home. Go ahead, cook at home. But when you want a really great experience, you come see me. And so there's a funny environment that lives, that exists. And I do like calling it out. When somebody decides if they want to sell, I'll tell them, I say, listen, based on what you're going through right now, you are not a good fit for this. And I would highly recommend you, because the right agent is worth their weight in gold, and they will make you more money. See, what matters here is a lot of people get fixated on how much are they paying an agent, when what they need to be thinking about is how much money am I netting in my pocket, bottom line, at the end of this transaction. And if using an agent, even after them taking their cut, still nets you more money in your pocket, bottom line, well, then why on earth would you ever consider going through? It's difficult to sell your home on your own. What I like to tell, oh my gosh, Lisa, it's like running a marathon. So I call it running a marathon, because running a marathon is simple, but it's not easy. It's simple in the fact that it's putting one foot in front of the other for 26.2 miles until you get to the end. That's simple, but there's nothing easy about it. And this is what selling your home is like. Selling your home, I could teach it to anybody, but they have to commit. They have to say, yes, listen, that $30,000 I'm going to save is worth me doing all this. And that's why it's really not appealing to people where both couples are working, 60-hour work weeks, and they just, the opportunity cost for them to take a week off work. If you're making $100,000 a week as an ultra successful person, why on earth would you take a week off work to save $30,000? Get your butt back at work and pay the agent to do their job.
Agent to do the work. Yeah,
sure. Or if you're going through a legal scenario, like if you're in the middle of a divorce or probate, or there's a foreclosure or whatever, this is not the time for you to decide you're going to play Perry Mason and mess around with the most valuable asset in your portfolio. But on the other hand, if you have time, if you enjoy DIY, if you can follow a process and you enjoy the project management of it all, by all means, I believe this is one of the most fruitful things that you can engage in, is understanding, because once you learn this, you'll never unlearn it. And these skills that we teach about pricing and competition, how to generate competitive offers, how to get bidding wars, these are skills that you're going to take with you for the rest of your life and apply them elsewhere. And that's what I love so much about it.
So Tim, where can, on your website, there are courses. I saw that. Is this something where they should just get the course and learn it, or they have access to you? Like, you're going to actually guide them and walk them through the whole process. Is there that option as well? Tell me more.
There is. So I do, I have a curated set of courses that I filmed, and I make myself personally available. I do have to charge for that. So this is what I tell people. Don't pay me anything. Everything I say, everything I do in my courses, I literally give away for free on my YouTube channel. I don't
Yeah.
hold anything back on Instagram, YouTube. I literally tell everybody everything. I'm not here to make a single penny. The only time I have to ask for money is when it takes my personal time. And that's where the paid programs come in to play. But I always tell people, I'm like, don't pay me. Just learn everything I teach you for free. Then if you decide there's still something there and you decide that there's still some extra element of help that you could benefit from a one-on-one conversation, then you can explore that investment. But until then, don't bother. I would rather people just learn how to do this. My goal is this. I want somebody to one day not have to go in the Marines out of high school because they couldn't afford college, because that's where I was. There's no way we could have afforded college.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Again, I'm super grateful for that experience, but it should be a choice, not, an ultimate conclusion that's kind of forced on you.
Yeah.
I want a retired couple to be able, or a couple facing retirement to be able to go early and start the rest of their lives early. Like, these are the kind, when I talk about leaving a legacy, this is what I want. I want to enable other people to have experiences that I couldn't or don't have, or that my parents didn't have, or people around me that I love that I don't see them marching toward. I want to enable that for complete strangers, so that maybe one day somebody can do this. Maybe one day some kid goes to college because his parents were able to start a college fund for them. With the money they save. Maybe a retired couple is able to add 5 or 6 great years together as they enjoy the sunset of their lives because they were able to afford to do so. That's what this whole goal is.
So good, Tim. Thank you for giving us a little bit more detail on that, because I think our listeners are wondering. So, okay, we're going to shift gears here for just a minute. We have something that we do, 60-second drawer dash with all of our guests. I'm just going to rapid fire you some questions, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I hope this is censored. No, I'm just kidding.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. What is one habit you don't negotiate anymore?
I wake up at 4:20 every morning and I ride my bike to the gym.
Wow, that's a good one. Okay, something people would be surprised that you still struggle with.
Honesty. As much as I know that honesty matters, I find myself so many times in situations where it would just be easier for me to lie than hurt somebody's feelings. And so I still find myself doing that.
Okay. Best decision you made in your 40s. And that's assumptive. Forgive me if it's wrong.
No, I'm flattered. I'm at the tail end of 40s. I turned 49 in November. So that's a great assumption.
Okay.
I bought it's a silly thing. I order stuff off of Amazon all the time.
Yeah.
And I bought a belt. Yeah. I bought a belt that has a knife in the belt buckle. It's like a little knife, and I use it for all my opening Amazon boxes. So yeah, that is like the single greatest hack. It's called a belt buckle knife. So for anybody listening to this that wants a gift for like a dad or, a dorky guy in their life like me, get them that. They will love you forever.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have listeners emailing me saying, can you put the link in the show notes? I will put the link in the show notes. Yeah. You have to send me the link.
You might have to find it on eBay. Yeah. You might have to find it on eBay now, because I don't think they can sell it on Amazon. I think in some places it's considered a weapon. I don't know how it's a weapon. It's like that big.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. It's so handy though. It's like
I guess I get why it would be considered a weapon, but I love the idea of like Amazon.
Because it's always on you. Yes. Especially for like somebody like me. Like, I have pocket knives galore. Guess where they all are? Sitting in my dresser, because I never remember to bring them. But a belt you wear every day. It's like, I love it.
That's so funny. All right. What keeps you steady on a hard day?
Oof. I have to say, I don't have hard days. I mean, I'm serious. I don't.
Yeah.
Like my days are, I've engineered them so where every morning I pray, I go to the gym, I come home, I work at something I absolutely love doing. And then I get to spend every night, I get to cook for my family. We eat at the dinner table. We've really designed just an idyllic life. Hard days for me are when kids are sick or pets are hurt or things like that.
Yeah.
And then again, I resort to prayer.
Resort to prayer. I love it.
Yeah.
One word. Here's our last question. What's one word you would use to describe who you are today? I feel like I might know this, but I'm going to reserve.
Grateful.
Grateful. I thought you were going to say blessed, but grateful. I love it. The same. So listen, Tim, every guest that we have on the Sock Drawer, I always ask at the end of every episode, what is something we can offer the listeners? What is a tiny dare? We call it. It's our tiny dare segment. Some small actionable step that someone listening could take in the next 24 hours and implement?
My goodness. That is hard because when I think about steps, they're always so big.
Yeah.
But
Like, here's the thing, that like, what would you challenge someone to do if they feel like something in their life maybe isn't lining up? What would you offer them as a suggestion or a piece of advice?
I think it's really important that we have a source of truth. And I think it's important that when we make
Yeah.
any decision in our life, that we have a frame of reference that we know is authentic and good. So I see a lot of people living lives today that they believe are very authentic, and they believe they're ethical because the yardstick that they're measuring this against is faulty. And so you can't really be a good person unless you first understood what good means. And
Yeah.
one thing I would love for everybody to do is reality check what it is you believe and why you believe it. And
Yeah.
if it's not an eternal source of truth that's never been wrong and it's never changed, then find a different source of truth.
So good. And in people's good, everybody's definition of good, it can be different for everybody, right? I mean, yes, there's the standard, like don't lie and the blah, 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 I mean, you could list all of those. I get it. They come from the good book and, there's all of those, but internally, everybody, especially from your experiences and your life, I feel like good means something different to everybody. So,
Certainly.
gosh, I couldn't thank you more for being here. I am so appreciative of this conversation, and I can't wait to have you back on. I hope that we can really dig into some more stuff. I appreciate your honesty and your being so straightforward with us. I think that's what's going to drive people. We will make sure the website is in the show notes. The eBay link that we talked about is in the show notes. I mean, who doesn't need that? I'm always running around the house looking for scissors to open up a box.
It is so handy. I look like, and it's ugly. It's such a dorky belt, but I love it.
You could just wear it around the house, right?
It looks like something a G.I. Joe figure would wear, like back in the day, just like I'm such a dork, but I seriously, best hack ever.
It sounds
It does. It's like a web belt, but I mean, once you have, I still don't understand how they classify it as, like, I guess everything's a weapon if you're Chuck Norris, but
I guess, yeah, that's right. Well, this is the kind of stuff, honestly, people don't always say out loud, and you did, and that is what that's what our show's about, is just true honesty and sharing with our listeners what things that they can do to better themselves and find where is their next step, how to get to that next thing. So a lot of people, they're living through some tough stuff, some tough times, some tough stuff. And if someone listening connect with your story, or maybe if they're in a place where, I don't know, they're trying to rebuild something in their life, maybe even just smarter, move in business, finding something that they know they've wanted to do. How do you figure that out? Well, where can they find you, especially when it comes to the real estate? Tell us your website and any other way they can contact you.
For sure. Yeah, my website is Foolproof FSBO, which is FSBO. So foolprooffsbo.com. And if you go and any of the socials like Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, and you just look up my handle, Foolproof FSBO, you will find me there. I do most of my content on YouTube because I find that's a great place for me to teach people.
Yeah.
But I also do some short stuff on Instagram and Facebook just to get people aware. But yeah, that's the best place to find me. I'm also on LinkedIn, Timothy Street. Oh yeah, take your pick. I try to make myself available.
Go find all of them. Yeah, connect everywhere with Tim. He's great. You guys are going to want him in your corner. That is for sure. So thank you, Tim, again for being here. I'm so grateful to have you. If something in this conversation, you guys, stuck with you today, pay attention to that, because that's usually where the truth lands, right? And if you know somebody who needs to hear this or should hear this, please share it with them, because that's how we pay it forward. And then make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Sock Drawer Podcast. Take care. Every week we come here and open the drawer. You already know what's inside. You always have. And if this conversation challenged you in a good way, and you think it will help challenge someone else who needs it, send it to them, because that's how we pay it forward together. Subscribe and follow so you never miss what's coming next. And find us at thesockdrawerpodcast.com.